Welcome to the Fourth and Short podcast, a breakdown of the hottest topics on the Schuylkill League sports scene, with your hosts, Eli Doyle and Leroy Boyer.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the T102sportsnow.com Fourth and Short podcast. My name is Leroy Boyer, and I'm joined by an esteemed group of people here today. We got Jerry Misstishin, Eli Doyle, and Jim Misstishin. We're going to spend the next half hour to however long this takes talking high school football in Schuylkill County. Let's just quick rattle off scores from week one. So week one's in the books. Some surprises, some not surprises. Week one scores: Shamokin beats Pottsville 27-13 in probably one of the better games of the night. North Schuylkill beats Mount Carmel 37-30. Blue Mountain beats Schuylkill Haven 19-14. Marion over Hanover area 35-0. Tri-Valley over York Catholic 36-16. Jim Thorpe beat Palmerton 38-15. Northern Lehigh comes from behind to beat Lehighton 15-14. Catasauqua over Mono area 47-34. Williams Valley over Upper Dauphin 21-7. Myersville defeated Halifax 39-0. Salisbury over Panther Valley 28-6. Northern Lebanon 10, Pine Grove 0. Holy Redeemer Nativity beats them 52-0. And then on Saturday we had two games. It was Tamaqua over Penn Argyl 38-7, and then Coleman Votech defeats Shenandoah Valley 48-17. Guys, let's talk week one. We're going to get into a couple of things here today, but we'll talk week one. Jimmy, give me one thing from all those games in week one that stood out to you, results, plays, kids, whatever.
I think the one result that stood out was Williams Valley winning at Upper Dauphin. I think that was a really good win. You know, you lose the Achenbach kid, and everybody was wondering what's Williams Valley going to be. They go to a tough place to play, Upper Dauphin, a rivalry game. Those teams hate each other. On the road, week one, I think that was one of the best wins of week one, definitely.
Eli?
I think for me, the standout T102 athlete of the week, Finale Evans and Patel athlete of the week, Luke Miller popping out, solidifying himself basically as the North Schuylkill tailback, was my biggest takeaway from week one. I thought that was huge, especially considering, just a mere, 4 weeks ago, we didn't know who was going to be running the ball for North Schuylkill.
We didn't know 2 nights before.
Yeah.
Jerry?
For me, there was 2 big games this year to start the season, and I think they both lived up to the hype. Like they were good games. They were good football games. It's a good way to start the season. Blue Mountain Haven, good defensive battle, and you had some scoring in the Mount Carmel North Schuylkill game.
For me, I thought there was 2 things that stood out to me. Blue Mountain, 2 senior members of their offensive line, both get hurt and don't play. Nick Beckfield is a captain for the Eagles, hobbles out there with a boot on. They throw 2 sophomores in there. Vaughn Helverson, a kid that Tom Gallagher told me during preseason camp when I was there that day that watch this kid. He's going to be really good. He stepped in at center. He stepped in at nose guard. Haven dominated the game on both sides of the line, offensively and defensively. They gave Brady Strauss time to throw. Defensively, they shut down Schuylkill Haven's running game, 105 yards. Only one play Haven had running the football over 10 yards, and it was on their first drive. After that, Blue Mountain shut them down. The second thing that stood out was Tamaqua. Eli and I went to Tamaqua. I was impressed by Tamaqua. I hadn't seen Tamaqua in a long time. And I think if you call up video from his first year as the Steelers quarterback, and you look at Luke Kane, he looks like Ben Roethlisberger. There's a great analogy there. Maybe it's the number 7, maybe it's the height, but I just think the way he conducts himself, throws the football, scrambles out of the way, knows when to do both. The one long pass, he looked like he was going to get sacked. He took a couple steps up and bam, long pass, perfectly on the money. So, Tamaqua impressed me. We'll see how far they can take that from there. So we have both Jimmy and Jerry on the show today. The PIAA needs football officials. They need officials in every sport. The 3 of us, Jerry, Jimmy, and myself, do baseball games in the spring, and they're always hurting for baseball officials. And all the other sports, we won't call them minor, but the other sports, obviously you need officials for every sport. And if you're interested in being a PIAA official, if it's something, maybe you umpire Little League, or you work midget football games, or you do bitty basketball games, don't be afraid to get on to PIAA.org. sign up to be an official. That we'll talk you through the tests. There are always people to help you with the tests. They're not that hard to pass. And honestly, you could work every day of that sport, no matter what sport it is, because officials are solely needed. Both of you guys, and you guys can interrupt me here, serve as an umpire.
That's correct.
In a football.
That's correct, yes.
Jimmy, tell the fans here what an umpire does.
That's a great question, and just to educate people, because a lot of the times we'll get people like, hey, that happened there, without no responsibility. So as an umpire, I'm right in the middle of it, 5 to 7 yards off the line of scrimmage. My main responsibilities are the center and the guards, pre-snap. Every guy on the field has pre-snap responsibilities. My short wings, the line judge, head linesman, they have the tackles, they have the receivers. That everybody has a responsibility pre-snap. And I find it funny because, you'll have a kid come to you and be like, hey ref, he's holding. Who's holding? Well, the receiver held me. I think if more people knew what the responsibilities each ref had, it would go along, because now when he comes in, he's like, hey, that tackle's holding me. Now I'm going to tell my short wing, hey, heads up, 72, you complain about holding. Happens a lot. So everybody has it's not like all 5 guys are just on the field, just looking at 22 guys. We have our pre-snap responsibilities. And then once the play starts, now you have your different responsibilities. You could have pulling guards that I might have. The play come running right at you as an umpire. You have and then after the play, get in there, clean things up, get your spots from your sides, and get the ball placed, get out of there. Also, pre-snap, I count the offense or the defense, depending on who you're working with. Each white hat, each referee has their own way of doing things. But each time you go out there, you have a pre-snap responsibility. You have a responsibility if you're part of the field. 5-man crew is really tough. As you said, we need officials. We do. As you said, you will work every day. There are first-year officials working Friday night. It's crazy. The guys in our chapter, we have a great chapter of football officials, help you out all the time. But they say back in the day, it took 3 to 5 years to get a varsity game.
They'll help during our radio show, the Touchdown Tips show that airs Friday mornings on WPPA prior to the Mike Brennan show on WPPA. A fantastic Friday of football type stuff. But Del Houck told us he was a longtime football official. I want to say he was a line judge. On the sides. 5 years until he got a varsity.
Yeah, it was 3 to 5 years till he got a varsity game. These guys are taking their test and their very first game. Or my first ever football game that I ever refed was Williams Valley Tri-Valley varsity. Got thrown right into it, but I worked with a great crew. They walked me through it. And, I'm a baseball guy. We're all baseball guys here, except for Jerry maybe. But through and through, I'm a baseball guy. I've spent my whole life in the sport of baseball. There's nothing like Friday nights. I get jacked up at work on Friday knowing that I get to go to a football game on Friday night in Pennsylvania. It's so special in our area, especially going to the field on Friday nights. Everyone turns out. It's so much fun. The camaraderie between the officials. We have a crew. Our crew's together mostly all the time. We have a blast. We want to get every call right, no doubt. But we want to have fun doing it too. We all have jobs. When you do baseball, you leave your job.
Leave school early sometimes.
Right.
To get there.
To go there to umpire. We all have we're not full-time officials. We want to get every call right. But again, we're gonna miss calls, we're gonna miss plays. It happens. You just gotta, some people are better with it than others, dealing with that, and that's a lot of the younger officials. That's the problem they have.
So break it down for me. The guy wearing the white hat.
Yep.
He's the referee.
He is the head referee.
Yes.
He's the man in charge. He's the guy.
The guy in the middle. You guys are both umpires. You're on the defensive side, almost like a linebacker.
Yep.
The 2 guys. We'll talk 7-man first. The 2 guys at the very line of scrimmage. What titles do they have?
So you have the head linesman. He is on the chains, and that's head linesman. And then line judge is opposite the chains, and that switches. The chains switch depending on what school you're at. Some schools have, depending on the press box, that's what it goes by. So it goes by whatever side the press box on, it's opposite for the chains. Well, some schools, Panther Valley, the chains are on the home side because the press box is on the visitor side. Mm-hmm. So depending on where you go. So the head linesman is always with the chains, that side of the field can be flip-flopped. Then in
the
7-man,
the two guys halfway back are there. What are their
so
titles?
that's the side judge. In the 7-man, that's side judge and back judge.
Field judge.
Oh, I'm sorry, field
Field
judge. Yeah,
judge.
field judge and side judge.
And then the guy playing like umpire, referee, safety back there.
Yep, that is the back judge.
Okay.
He's in charge of the play clock. He's the back judge is hard. I've never done back judge. I don't want to do back judge. Jerry does want to do back
Yeah,
judge.
I have not, but that's one position I do want to
It's
learn.
you can fall asleep there because a lot of times, especially high school, you're running. You have running the ball. You don't have a lot of responsibility. You have the play clock responsibility. You got to know between the 25 to 40 which is which. The thing with back judges, and especially in a 5-man crew, in a tie game in the fourth quarter, there could be a deep pass, and that might be your only call of the game, but you better get that one right. And that's back judge is tough. Our back judge, Freddie McDonald, does a heck of a job. He's been doing it a long time. He's done a state final. I'm so lucky to be on the crew that I am on. I have friends in the crew. We're all so close. We all work well together, and that's part of it. You know that. And when you ump with someone, it makes it so much better.
You are on Jim Toomey's crew.
Right.
Jim Toomey, long time football official, and I think he does softball. I'm not sure if he does anything over the winter. What is it working for a guy like him? How does that help you? What kind of when you're a younger official, what do you learn from a guy like Jim Toomey?
Just a wealth of knowledge from him doing college, all the years he's been around high school. He knows the positions, what he expects of you. The pregame, we go over everything. We have our papers, we go over the responsibilities all the umpires have. Very detailed pregame. So I've done some games with him over the years, JV games and stuff, where you learn a lot of stuff from him. And just the Friday night, different feel with him. Now this is my first year working with him. It's a different feel working with different crews, but I like the crew I'm on. Our back judge is Dave Warpinski. He's been doing it forever too.
He's good.
He is good. He's a good back judge. Wing guys, Matt Ravinas and Doug Litweiler are wings. So it's a good crew we had in Haven Blue Mountain week 1. A well-played game. I think we did a good job.
I covered that game, and I thought you had one or two little stumbles, but
Yeah.
Ball placement, had both teams yelling and screaming at you. But other than that, honestly, the two games we were at, and I'll have you chime in here, Eli, the two games we were at, both your game at North Schuylkill, my game at Haven, and then the Tamaqua game, I thought they were all officiated very well.
Yeah, honestly, I thought they were all officiated very well. We talked about the North Schuylkill game. There was one controversial call, flag came flying in from the back. And it's not that it came flying in from the back, it was more or less that it came flying in a little after the play. But otherwise, I thought it was a phenomenally called game. Referees did a great job, and players played well, obviously. It was a 37-30 final. You can't ask for much more in week 1, right?
So if you go to a game Friday, you'll see a lot of crews that are 7-man. But there are games, and maybe JV games, freshman games, midget games, that are 5 or sometimes 4 guys. How much of a challenge is that?
Yeah, it's different. And actually, varsity, I'm going to say 75% of our teams are 5-man in Schuylkill County. The bigger schools use 7. Pottsville uses 7. North Schuylkill uses 7. Tamaqua 7. Williams Valley uses 7. The small school, they always did that, so they continue. But most of the other schools, it's all 5-man. 5-man's different. I mean, think about it. You have 5 guys watching 22 guys on a 54 by 120 yard field. So 7-man, and 7-man's still tough, don't get me wrong, but those 2 extra set of eyes behind the play help catch some things that maybe not caught in 5-man. 5-man, you got to have your head on a swivel. Like, it's, there's calls that you might not make in 7 that you have to make in 5. I always say as an umpire, umpires rarely blow your whistle. We rarely blow our whistles. We don't mark it down. I have 2 great wings in Shane Leedy and the better Doyle brother.
Debatable.
Not debatable. They're on my wings. They do a tremendous job. But you have those plays, like maybe a slant play over the middle, where I might have to help out once or twice, and it's not much. 7-man, you have those deep wings to get the extra stuff. And there's still, I'll tell you a game last year, we did Notre Dame Green Pond at Palmerton last year, 5-man crew. We came off that field drenched. We were sweating. We worked our butts off last year. But the smaller schools, and it's by choice. The schools have the choice, do they want 5, do they want 7? So it goes by choice.
Budgets play a role in
Well,
that.
absolutely,
You know,
no doubt.
But your
it's
schools
big
have
difference.
a little bit more athletic budget than some of the smaller schools.
I will say though, later in the year I have a game at Williams Valley, and instead of 7, we only have 6. Not enough officials, so we're actually doing a 6-man crew instead of 7.
And how does that change? Where do the guys line
I'll
up
tell
for
you the truth,
6?
I've never done a 6-man game,
I haven't either.
so I don't know if that takes the back judge over to the.
Yeah, the back judge
Judge
moves
moves
out. You
over.
don't have a back judge in a 6-man crew. You just have 2 deep wings, 2 short
They
wings,
come out and field a
umpire.
little bit more back wings, right?
So I would have to look that up, but that's the way it was set up. There was emails sent out that these schools were told that have 7, you may not have 7. You may have 6,
And
you may have
that's
5.
not just our area. That's Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a big
EPC.
reason why there are games on Thursday nights. I mean,
Absolutely.
back in the day, you would have never had a Thursday night game. It was like you were breaking the law to have a Thursday night game. Everything was on Friday, unless you didn't have lights. Then you played Saturday. Maybe if it rained, you ended up playing Monday. Nobody played Sundays back then. Now, because of the shortage of officials, and because they basically said to every team, almost in Pennsylvania, it's every league. The Lancaster-Lebanon League did it. Lehigh Valley up in here. Hey, we'd like you to move one of your games to a Thursday. There are schools who don't and will never. But that helps with the officials. I know there was a weekend you said you have a game Thursday and then a game Saturday.
Yeah.
Last year I think you told me you had a game
We
Thursday,
work
Friday,
Thursday,
Saturday.
Friday, Saturday. I know Dan's working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the weekend this year. Like it's crazy out there right now. I mean, it's good for us. We like to do it. We like to work, but at the same time, we need officials.
And that doesn't even touch the tip of the iceberg, because you have midget games on Sundays, which you guys also work. JV freshman doubleheaders, if they still have freshman teams, or junior high.
Junior
So,
high,
junior
JV,
high,
yep.
JV now instead of freshman. So you're working maybe a Thursday night, maybe a Friday night, maybe a Saturday mixed in, midgets on Sunday, and Monday doing a doubleheader.
Yeah, 6 games in 4 days, counting Friday night 1 game, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, and a JV game on Monday. 6 games this past weekend.
And are a lot of the sub-varsity games Saturday mornings now?
No, there are a lot of sub-varsity now on Mondays.
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 Yeah, there are some Saturday mornings. I know North Schuylkill plays the Saturday mornings. There are some that still do Saturday mornings, but most of the majority are Mondays now.
A lot of them were moved this Saturday because of the holiday. So
That
there's
makes
a full
sense.
slate of games Saturday.
Give me one umpire story. A game that you had, something that sticks out in your brain, a play, a call. I mean, I know from an umpire standpoint, I'm not a football official, but I saw it with my 2 eyes right in front of me when Jaden Libby ran Bo Rogers over. Bo Rogers is a big guy. He was an umpire in the middle for years and years. Jaden Libby had a full head of steam and just ran him over. And is there a play? I don't want to say that you got run over, but
I did. Jimmy knows.
Where at?
Last year,
Tell the story.
did a rainy game at J. Bernie Crum, where were we at?
Yeah.
J. Bernie Crum.
Nice.
And there was a field judge in the back. There's a touchdown.
I'm looking for the touchdown. Jerry's on the ground, flopping around like a fish on a wet tree burning from
I don't know if
stadium.
I was not paying attention. I don't know what happened. I got plowed over and my hands were all from touching down. I was soaking wet. The difference for me is the first year or two when I was not on the crew, I did a lot of Allentown games and I did some 6A games. Let me just tell you, that's a little, when you do 6A games and then you do some of our games around here, it's a big difference.
as far as
Like the size of the kids alone.
And the speed.
The speed and the size of the kids. Like being an umpire in the middle, when you have some of those running backs coming at you at the Lehigh Valley schools, like, that's the only time I've gotten run over or knocked over. Fortunate enough for umpire, I have.
The least favorite play as an umpire, for me anyways, is the punt. Because on a punt, you're 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. You're not your usual 5 yards. So you're 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. So at Pine Grove last year, there was a punt, so I'm 10 yards back. You're in charge of the snapper. You make sure the snapper in high school football, snapper cannot be touched till he gets his head up. But nobody ever touches snapper because it's a 15-yard penalty. You don't ever want that. Kid snaps the ball. Now, as an umpire, you got 10 kids because they're all lined up in formation. You have your gunners, but they're just running by, and you're just like, please, no. and there was a punt that went high. I had a kid running at me this way, and I went to take a step this way, and I turned, and here comes the other kid, and just bam, and down I went. It's the only time I went down, one time, but still, I went down. I always hate when I go, punts, here we go. It's just coming at you.
It does happen though to players. They use you as a pick.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
in
as
the
an
middle
umpire,
there.
that's everything. You never want to be in the same spot, like
You
on
try
pre
to-
snap. Because if you are, the coach might see that on film. Now they start running the receivers off you. You know, like, hey, he's setting up
Yeah.
here every time. You take your defensive back because we're part of the field. We're on there. Like, so you don't want to, that's another thing. You don't want to set up in the same spot as an umpire. You want to try and be in different spots because the good coaches will pick up on that and they will use you.
Just a quick side note on that. If any viewers out there do find any footage on Jimmy or Jerry getting run over in the last year, we'd love to see it.
We would love to throw it
Sure
with
you
this
would, yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things that I love about umpiring baseball games is just the conversations you have with the coaches and the kids as the games go on. Umpiring games around here, as a home plate guy, the catcher and you have a conversation the whole game. There are kids who were catchers that years later will, hey, how's it going? They remember you, they remember games, they remember talking to you. Obviously coaches, you talk to them before the game, you talk to them during the game and after the game, and it's always a great like camaraderie bonding type thing. Sure, they're gonna get mad at you if you blow one, or they're just in one of those moods where coaches like to yell. But how does that work in football? I know there's been in the middle, you're kind of right in everything, so you hear, Eli talking smack about Jimmy.
Oh, you hear it all, and from doing 3 sports like Jimmy and I do, we do basketball, football, and baseball. You get to know a lot of these players because we do a lot of their games, so they know who we are. So you're communicating with them during the game. I still have conversations with the players in the game. When stuff happens, knock it off. Don't do it. Get back in your huddle. Like I try not to let it escalate. That's the big thing. Nobody wants a 15-yard penalty. I don't want to be throwing anybody out. So you just try to get the play over with. Tell them, good job, roll off. Let's go back in the huddle and get moving. But you get to know a lot of these guys from you do too.
Yeah.
From covering these games and doing baseball.
That's the one thing I love about umpiring is being in there and talking. And to be a good umpire, preventive officiating, let them know, like, hey, we're going to clean this up. Hey, keep an eye, I'm watching you. Preventive officiating so you don't have those guys cursing at each other. Next thing you know, you have a brawl in the field. God forbid that ever happens. And that's by talking. That's by letting them know, hey, I saw that, or hey, don't do that, or.
And that's kind of like in every sport.
Every sport.
You guys do basketball as well, and then the 3 of us do baseball. You see it. When player A is getting a little chippy with player B, in every sport. And as an official, and I'm sure it happens in other sports as well, soccer, stuff like that, where there's contact involved. That hey, you as an official have to step in and say, hey, knock it off, play the game. Even to some coaches, sometimes coaches, and there are football coaches in our area who like to play the officials, who like to, hey, you missed that. Hey, this guy's offsides. Hey, the center's moving the ball. Hey, the tackle's not set every time. And you kind of have to tune that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have a job to do. You make sure you do that job. Like I don't, me and Jerry have, I guess you could say, 2 different styles of officiating, where I like to talk to people, let them know, knock that off. I don't want to, where Jerry is more like, you're gone.
Not right away. But,
No, but you don't have a problem throwing people out like I do. I should be more like you. Because I don't.
That's the only time in your life he's ever going to say that.
Yeah, I
Write that
should
down.
be more like you. I don't do that.
There's only so much you can tolerate in in basketball. It's more so for me than baseball or football that I run into it. Because it's just the way it is.
And the lower you go, and you know this, umpiring baseball, the lower you go,
The worse it gets.
the worse it gets.
Because every 10,
It's-
11, and 12-year-old's going to be the next Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. And
And
their
you have
parents
dads
are,
coaching, and God love that they do, because if the dads don't coach, they might not have a team. At the same time, the dads don't know the rules,
Nope.
and they're yelling about
They're
it.
only in
and-
there for one reason, and that's for their team to win and their kid to do great. And we do travel ball down at the Big Show in Reading, and you see it. You almost want to turn, as a parent of a son who played travel ball for you, and played on several different teams. I was that parent at one time. I know I was, even as a coach. And
That's what I always laugh at. I was that coach at one time.
You were that coach, and I was that
And
coach,
it's like,
and I was
wow.
that parent. And now you look at the guy and you're like, hey, buddy, let your kid play. I said that to a coach in a teen league game this year, who, as a high school player, might have been one of the best high school hitters this county ever seen. He hit more home runs in a single season than anybody I've ever seen. Hit a home run off the school at Pottsville, over the road, up on the hill. Now he's coaching because his kid's playing teen league, and his kid was pitching and just having an awful day. And he came out to talk to me with him and said, "Hey, let your kid play. Let your kid be him. Stop being so hard on him." And he just kind of looked at me, and he knew I was right, and he did. And the kid actually had a couple big hits later in the game. But sometimes when it relates to football and basketball, you almost have to do the same thing. With a coach, if you talk to him and say, "Hey, we'll get that for you," kind of make him, I don't want to say make him feel happy, but calm him down a little bit. De-escalate the situation. It gets better.
It's funny, like you say, Leroy, you brought it up though. That perspective of Jimmy's coached, at the Little League level, the perspective you have as a player, coach, and then an umpire is really something. Because you give it to him as a coach, and then when you're umpiring, you're like, geez,
Oh, I look back at myself coaching baseball for 26 years. I'm like, I was the biggest idiot there was. Like, I was a moron. It's plain and simple. Like, as an umpire now, I'm like, I would have hated myself.
Yeah.
I would have thrown me out in the third inning.
I remember yelling at guys who I later had to work with, and I'm like, wonder if he remembers when I, said how he was the worst umpire ever, in the Little League All-Star game.
Yeah.
You see,
and now you're upping with him.
Yeah, now I'm working with him.
You see a lot more in the stands than you do on the field. Like, that, or up in the basketball court. You can sit up in the stands and say this, that, but it happens so fast on the court, and there's two guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
how about the umpire in the Tamaqua game, the referee, right? So there was a play late in the game.
Good guy. Don't know his name. Great guy.
He did a great job, but he's standing. So we're on the Tamaqua sidelines, behind the ball, and some lady from Penn Argyll in the second or third row of the bleachers,
maybe directly lined up with him too.
Yeah, and it gets quiet, and she starts yelling about you missed that holding call, it was right in front of you. And me, using, of course, outside voice, said, "Give that lady a flag out there. She's got the best view of the play. Just give her some stripes." And the referee starts going like this. He starts nodding his head like, yeah, that's exactly it. And he did a good job.
Yeah, the whole crew did a great job.
Yeah, they were not a Schuylkill County crew. They were a Lehigh Valley crew. Could have been a Monroe County area crew. Penn Argyll is in Northampton County, but the Poconos, they're right there. So who knows who had that game? Guys, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back. We still need a sponsor for this podcast. So if you saw our first one from Media Day where we made a little pitch, we would love to have this podcast sponsored by you each week.
Just think, your business right here on a shirt.
Eli would wear it. He would wear your merch, shirt, hat, pants, whatever it might be. He would definitely wear it because he's that kind of guy.
And if the money's high enough, maybe I'll get a tattoo.
We'll be right back with the next segment here of the Fourth and Short podcast.
The money won't be high enough.
All right, we're back on the Fourth and Short podcast. T102sportsnow.com. Get live scores from Friday's games, detailed analysis and stories before the games and after the games. Last week, I think we had every game story, 8 game stories from Friday night up by 1 o'clock, I think.
Yep.
Eli's game took forever. Took a while for him to get out of North Schuylkill and get back here. We did write from the radio station upstairs, but we had the Tamaqua stuff up pretty quick from Saturday. You don't have to wait forever to find it.
Fun little behind-the-scenes niche here. Bob Lipsky was actually completely done writing his Minersville story before I even got back to the office from North Schuylkill.
Officials did a great job that game of getting.
They did, yeah, absolutely.
Officials did a great job that game.
I heard.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Week two. So there's one Thursday night game this week involving a local team, Bangers at Lehighton. Games on Friday night. The WPPA game is Pottsville home opener. Mike Brennan's return to Veterans Memorial Stadium. Home opener for the Crimson Tide to entertain Jim Thorpe. The T102 game of the night is Marion at Tri-Valley. That's a pretty good game. And then Jay-Z is going to be doing live takes from the Mono area at Williams Valley game. They're honoring Gary Collins, NFL great from out that way.
War number 86.
War number 86 in the NFL.
Shout out Coach Hauk.
Shout out to Coach Hauk. 44 is his number in high school, and they're retiring that number. Other games on the schedule for Friday night, North Schuylkill at Tamaqua, Southern Lehigh at Blue Mountain, Minersville at Shenandoah Valley, Panther Valley at Schuylkill Haven, Pine Grove at Nativity. No Saturday games for any of our teams this week, which is good. We have the weekend off. I will be in Philadelphia watching the Phillies. Hopefully they win a game while I'm there.
I'll be in Texas. Go Irish, right, Jim?
No comment on that. I believe blue and white is your.
Yeah. Turn the hat around.
Guys, we'll kind of go around. Give me one thing, one game that sticks out about week 2.
For me, it's Jim Thorpe at Pottsville. Like we were talking about before, Pottsville gave up a ton of rushing yards in week 1. Offense was, not the best. So home opener, Mike Brennan. Can they stop Jim Thorpe's dual threat quarterback? And can they manage to get some offense and win the game? That's my game for me this week.
For me, it's Southern Lehigh and Blue Mountain. I'm really interested to see what Blue Mountain can do against one of these, what do we want to call it, perennial 1-2 teams, Northwestern Lehigh, Southern Lehigh in the big division. I made my shameless plea on our pick show. I'm a Tom Gallagher guy. Tom, you need to send me some stuff. I need Blue Mountain stuff. I don't have any, okay? I can't keep giving this shameless plea
You
every
teach
week.
at Minersville, coach at Nativity, and now you want Blue Mountain.
And I'm an alumni of the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, that's true too.
I'm the biggest Schuylkill County supporter known to man, maybe. But
Rotating wardrobe.
and I love it. But yes, I'm interested to see what Blue Mountain does. We've heard about this Olish kid, the tight end for Southern Lehigh.
Andrew Olish is going to Michigan.
Yeah, Division I prospect, obviously. It'll be really interesting to see what Blue Mountain could do. This will have postseason implications, right? You know what I mean?
I'm very interested in the North Schuylkill at Tamaqua game. Tamaqua coming off the big week 1 win. They were pointing to this team for a couple of years. You have North Schuylkill coming off a rivalry victory over Mount Carmel. And then next week, North Schuylkill has another big game. So I don't want to say it's a trap game, but very interesting spot here for North Schuylkill. Going to Tamaqua, home opener on grass. Maybe they didn't cut the grass for a couple weeks. It's a little high, slower track.
Penardrell's grass was really high.
Oh yeah, it was.
So very, very interested to see the outcome of that game.
Not only that, it's week 2. Everybody's got film on you now, so there's no secrets. Who's carrying the ball for North Schuylkill? We asked all summer. Wally Hall rattled 6 names off a couple days before the game. Yeah, well, we have a bunch of guys that are going to run the ball.
3 kids.
Yeah, and no, it was Luke Miller was one of the names, but wasn't one of the first kids named. After they ran it 2 times in the scrimmage the week before. So, hey, kudos to North Schuylkill. Wally Hall is an awesome coach. Love the kids at North Schuylkill. Every time I go up there, those are great people. But those are the things now that everybody knows. Blue Mountain stuff Schuylkill Haven's running game. Don't be surprised that there's a lot of teams that try the same thing. Do they have the same personnel? No. Blue Mountain's line did a great job both sides of the ball. The game you guys didn't mention is probably the small school game of the week. Marion and Tri-Valley.
I was going back and forth between my game and that one. That's very interesting.
Billy O'Gorick, in everything that I've dealt with him at Marion, he was on our first podcast. Michael Glacko was on the first podcast. They seem to be doing things the right way. Every time I go up there, he's an energetic coach. I think it's the best way to put it. He was groomed for this. So when you take over as the head coach of any sport, there's always a transition. Here, there's not really, because it's just one of the assistants, the guy that everybody kind of knew was going to be the head coach. Now he's the head coach. Yes, he has different responsibilities. He can't, as he said to me, he goes, when a kid comes up with a tough question, I always say, well, go ask Coach DeCoste. Well, he can't do that anymore. It's his question. But the coaching staff is the same. The kids are the same. It's just a different guy calling the shots with more energy. And nothing against Coach DeCoste. Great man, legend, Hall of Famer. Billy's got a little bit more pep to the step, I guess is the way I put it. They played really well week 1. I think they're one of those small school teams that, single A could be a big factor at the end of the year. To do that, they're going to have to beat Tri-Valley. Tri-Valley at home. Their home opener after going to York and winning, they have some new faces. Parker Hatter. Hey, Cole Gemmerling didn't 9 carries. That was it. I'm not sure if he got banged up or what, but he's a stud. Both sides of the ball. Didn't really have much of a factor in week 1 for Tri-Valley. Blake Schwartz, 6'7" quarterback. He can see wherever he needs to throw the ball. Has some receivers. That's a great matchup. Both of those games last year were 1 touchdown games. So, T102 game of the night. Lots of atmosphere out there at Tri-Valley. I just think that's great. Just other thoughts on week 2. What did you see week 1 that you wonder if might carry over to week 2 or change?
Well, week 1 for me, seeing Myersville scrimmage and seeing them week 1, they didn't look great coming off the scrimmage. They scrimmaged a Northern Lebanon team, beat Pine Grove 10-0, but the Myersville defense flew around the field week 1. Flew around the field, shut Halifax down. Now, is Halifax a good football team? Yet to see. But the Myersville defense did a great job, and a great job from bouncing back from a not so great scrimmage to coming out and looking like they did week 1, throwing the ball, and their defense, phenomenal job.
I'll tell you one storyline I'm interested to see this week. Pine Grove Nativity. I mentioned it quickly on the pick show. I think it's going to be a war in the trenches. Of course, we have Noah Daubin and Mike Stank, and now they're adding Nick Wagner to the lineup outside. Okay, yes, we have plenty of options to get the ball done in the air. Ben Kreitzer's been their quarterback for, feels like forever now.
Third-year starter.
Yeah, it feels like forever now. So they obviously have the options to go through the air, and I think that'll be the path to success for Nativity. But I think the battle in the trenches, because you guys all know better than me, there's some big boys out in Pine Grove, right? And, I'm interested to see what that battle is like up front between the offensive defensive lines and Sam Spolsky on in the backfield for the Green Wave running the ball.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Haven's offense. Now, I know they're not going to get many defenses like Blue Mountain, but their offense just didn't look really good week 1.
Looked very vanilla.
Right. So they got shut down in the running game, which will improve, but there's always that thing with Haven, can they throw the football? They threw 4 passes.
And that's typical Schuylkill Haven. 4 passes is probably the over/under in most games. To me, I want to piggyback off of what Eli just said. I heard it several times during the course of the summer from the teams in the red division, the big school division of the new alignment of the Schuylkill Colonial Football Cooperative. They changed the divisions. They went from 4 to 3, 9, 9, and 10, 9 big schools with Northwestern Lehigh added in there because they wanted to play up. Almost like, hey, we're a AA school, but we want to play AAA. And you'll see some schools do that. They wanted to be up. So they put Wilson down. Wilson is a 4A school playing a bunch of 2As and 3As. They made a whole Colonial League division and an all Schuylkill League division. And when the cooperative was formed, that division setup solved everybody's problems. You no longer had Blue Mountain beating up on Shenandoah Valley like in the Intersite Football League. And the Colonial League, you didn't have Bangor, Southern Lehigh, Northwestern Lehigh beating up on the Salisburys and the Northern Lehigh before they got good the last couple of years. So all those things were answered. But the big key for the Schuylkill County teams was, hey, why is AAA Panther Valley and AAA Pine Grove in the small school division when AAA Tamaqua and AAA North Schuylkill with about the same enrollment, not too far apart, up in the big school division? So we won't beat around the bush. The football history at Panther Valley and Pine Grove is not what it is at North Schuylkill and Tamaqua and Jim Thorpe for that matter. So now you got Pine Grove, a AAA school, playing one of the smallest schools in the whole conference in Nativity. If you listen to all these big school proponents, Pine Grove should kill Nativity. They're AAA and they're single A. Interested to see the dynamic there and to see if that holds true. If Nativity's skilled kids, 16 seniors, 17 seniors on that team, and they beat Holy Redeemer 52-0 without Mike Stank, who went to Army over the weekend, was offered to run track at Army, has not committed yet. You'll be able to read that on T102sportsnow.com when it happens, because we'll have it now. It'll be first.
Don't have to wait for it.
We don't have to wait for it.
Not 2 days?
Not 2 days, not any.
The one thing, Leroy, too, I think week 2 is we don't have a lot of good games, as we've seen, but we're going to find out a lot about some teams. We're going to find out as Tamaka Real. We're going to find out Marion, Tri-Valley. Montanoy. Blue Mountain, Southern Lehigh, both 1-0 teams playing in the big school. We don't have a lot of good games, but we're going to find out a lot about teams this week. Very exciting week.
Williams Valley, Fletcher Thompson is a freshman running back. Maybe he's Williams Valley's next great running back. He certainly had a great debut, 21 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. His dad was a star running back at Williams Valley and then Lycoming, so it's in the blood. Williams Valley just keeps producing stud running backs out there. Similar to Schuylkill Haven. Small schools, every year they seem to have a tailback that is going to rush for a lot of yards. Williams Valley. And the last 2 times Mono and Williams Valley, I mentioned it on our Touchdown Tip Show, that was the Comer Gruarty versus Alex Achenbach war each year. And it was 22-21 at Monoy City. 2 years ago, there was a big fire in town. You could see it from the field. Like half the town was burning down. And last year, fire trucks were going by as the game was going on. And then last year was 49-41 out at Williams Valley. So, will that be a back and forth game this time? I don't know. Monoy scored 34 points in your opener. It's tough to score 34 points and still lose, but hey,
when you give up 47.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, you figured some things out and did some things that were very well to score points. So we'll see, how that is. Guys, final thoughts as we wrap this up.
Very interested to see how after week 2, how these teams start to pan out. I mean, we have 10 weeks. It goes quick. I mean, you're 1/5 of the season after week 2. Yogi Berra used to say it's getting late early. We're not there yet, but these games, there's some big games in week 2 that are going to propel the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, same thing. I think there's going to be I think we're going to figure out over the next 2-3 weeks here, who are we looking at really for the playoffs, okay? Who's really going to make it out of these divisions and compete in a district level?
I agree. See some of these teams, maybe a loss in week 1 if they can rebound in week 2, propel them into the rest of the season, or, just like the Pottsville Jim Thorpe game, Pottsville loses 0-2 to start the season.
And Tamaqua next week.
Yeah.
And for how fast Jimmy, mentioned the season is going, it is a long season too. And,
Fastest 10 weeks of the year, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
Fastest
is, extra stuff happens, right? Injuries happen, kids miss games for whatever reason, and we'll come to see, do teams have that depth too to be able to make things happen, if faced with injury or loss of a kid.
It is only week 2, but a lot of these games do have an impact, as you guys said, on the playoffs. There are only 3 single A teams in District 11. They are in a sub-regional with District 2, and 3 teams there that are traditionally really good. Old Forge and Lackawanna Trail. Lackawanna Trail was in the state playoffs last couple of years.
This year.
And they're good again this year.
They're going to be a problem.
Only 4 of those 6 make it. So, hey, a Nativity lost to Pine Grove, or Tri-Valley lost to Marion, could have a gigantic stake in those playoff races. Only week 2.
Could be the difference.
Yeah, could be a big difference maker. Guys, thanks for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Hope the
Thank you for having us.
insight that you gave on being a football official encourages somebody to say, you know what, that sounds pretty cool. Maybe you're a former player. Maybe you're a former coach. Maybe you're a dad whose kids are out of it now.
Maybe you're a guy who grew up idolizing one of the Misstishin brothers.
It could be. Maybe always wanted to be Jerry
Like me.
Eli's the youngster of this group. But hey, if you are interested in being a football official or an official in any sport, don't be afraid to reach out to a guy at a game. PIAA.org. If you go on there and you go under the officials tab, it gives you all the information where to go. Like I said, there's a lot of great guys who officiate in a ton of sports that'll be more than willing to bring you on and say, hey, here's how to do it, and help you every step of the way, to become just as good as these guys are. That's it for our second episode of the Fourth and Short podcast, T102 Sports Now. Make sure you check out the website over the weekend. Complete coverage of everything from week 2.
And make sure you check out Matty Fresh dropping the 10-year anniversary of Scoop State of Mind.
Thanks for watching.